Hey everyone, and welcome to the interview series. And today I have with us Dr. John Ratey, who is an associate clinical professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and the author of the book Spark: The Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain. All right, so John or Dr. John Ratey, thank you for being here today. Uh, I read the book. I read your book, Spark, and it's quite fascinating. You said many great things about how there's a connection the between exercise and your brain. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on what sort of benefits there are with exercise and the brain?
Yes, I can elaborate a lot. I wrote a whole book about it. It's the fact is that the information keeps coming in rapidly from all over the world. People are beginning to realize that exercise plays a key role in making our brains the best that they can be. I attended a whole bunch of anti-Alzheimer's, anti-aging meetings recently. Then all these wonderful new protocols are coming out, even reversing Alzheimer's in one uh, protocol from UCLA. And they all start off, number one recommendation is exercise. Number one, every single one of them, even though they might be interested in nutrition or even supplements or sleep. A number one recommendation is get your exercise in. And that sort of speaks to some of the power that exercise has on our brains because, for good reason, exercise really makes more of our brain cells active
Hmm.
than in any other human activity. We activate more brain cells by moving. And the more we move, the more brain cells we have clicking away. And when they click away, they do stuff. They release neurotransmitters. They release growth factors. They release hormones. They cause big, massive changes, obviously, in the chemistry of the brain. And this has many, many effects, which I detailed in my book, but which has to do with having regulating our emotions and optimizing our ability to learn, remember, and use our brains as we should.
Hmm.
So,
Wow. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's those are all things that you stated in your book, and just talk about the importance of exercise. And it's great to hear it again, straight from your voice.
yes, yes, no, I'm sure, but it is a conundrum because people don't think of exercise in the brain; they think of exercise in the body. And what we're learning now is that or movement and of all sorts really is what we do as animals
Hmm.
and mammals, and we move better than any other mammal in more directions and more in planning and predicting and all the things that we evolved to be able to do to lead us to be the what I call the evolutionary victors.
Hmm.
We we were the victors in the struggle. We were the species that came through, and our brains developed to help us be those victors. And as we grew bigger in terms of numbers, as we uh, added language, we used those same cells that we grew to help us plan, predict, anticipate, evaluate, uh, change our movement and behavior patterns or motor skills. We use those same cells to think with,
Hmm.
and so it often is certainly not thought about as something that when we move, we're using our thinking brain cells, but that's what we're doing.
Hmm. Okay, well, no, that's wonderful. For in terms of exercise, what would you say is the best time for people to exercise? There's many people who say, "Oh, you should exercise right in the morning." Some people say, "Oh, no, you should do it later in the afternoon because that's when you're more awake." There's different trains of thoughts, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that it depends on the person and their lives, but for the most part, if you have options, I would start the day off with exercise. I would start the day off with a bout of exercise. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do one at midday or at 2 o'clock or so when our usual cortisol is all changing and we're in that downswing period. That'd be a good time to exercise. But in the morning, you wake yourself up, you improve your arousal, you improve your mood, you improve your motivation for that day, and it makes for a better day. And this is one of the big deals about how to keep motivated when you're for exercise. Well, you don't look ahead. You don't look to tomorrow. You don't look, oh, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to have a good build, or I'm going to be able to, um, wear this outfit or whatever the heck it is. You look at how you're going to feel today.
Mm,
And this then becomes the cost benefit analysis is like, okay, I have to spend the time, do the structure to get to whatever the exercise is, whatever if it's a game, if it's a dance, if it's in the gym or if it's outside or it's lifting weights, whatever it is. If you plan and do it, your day will be that much better.
mm. And how much exercise should one be getting?
Well, it all depends. Again, all these questions are unknown because everybody's so different. But in the main, people should be getting about 30 minutes a day per week, 7 days a week on average. So in other words, 150 or 100 and whatever it is, 200 minutes a week of exercise, some of which should be really moderate to intense exercise because we need that to get our bodies in the best shape. And then we need to do some weight training, especially as we age. And we also need to pay attention to balance and coordination, which is really important and will help us move better, be better, think better, attend better, all that.
Mm. So it's not just example when you say exercise. It's not just example weightlifting or just specifically yoga. It should be a balance of various exercise that incorporates resistance, strength, and I guess cardio.
Oh yeah, cardio is huge. Cardio is the most studied. We're beginning to study weight training in animals now. Believe it or not, having rats climb up a ladder with the weight to their tail, so we can study what changes in the rat brain really occur and study that. But also, we have clinical studies in people showing that weight training has a very positive effect on mood, on anxiety, and on cognition, just like aerobic exercise does.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's yeah, because I'm sure people when they exercise, they only really just stick to one thing or one form of exercise. So it's great to hear that you should be getting a mix of the different types of exercise. And so your book, Spark, was written or released in 2008. Uh,
Correct.
that's about a decade ago. So, is there any new research that you've kind of discovered that wasn't included in your book, or are there any new findings in your that you've discovered that might be kind of not that might not have been included in that book?
Oh, there's new stuff coming out all the time. I can't tell you how much has changed with our understanding, one, of the brain, two, of what exercise does to the brain. I mean, we have learned a lot in these past 10 years. And I always say, look, when I started this in the mid early 90s, looking at exercise and its effect on mental health and effect on the brain, I would see about 10, 12 papers a month on exercise in the brain. Now I get sent to me over 100 new abstracts a week by the National Library of Medicine on exercise in the brain. So everybody's interested, everybody's doing it, everybody's taking it apart little by little. We're finding new stuff that occurs, new not only hormonal changes and all of that, new neurotransmitter changes, new uh, uh, enzymes that are released from the muscle when we move our muscles that have an effect on our brain. We knew a little bit about that when I wrote the book, but now there's a lot more. And it seems like every year at least there's one new finding, a new substance, an enzyme or an enzymatic reaction in the periphery, in the body, that has a direct effect on the brain, whether it's mood or learning. And it's quite impressive, and it's sort of nonstop. We have also a lot of epidemiologic studies that have come out looking at big groups, showing that exercise has a profound effect on learning, on skills, on being able to do well on tests, which is one of the things when I came to Korea that I met with the secretary, the minister of education there, and he was very interested because Koreans are very, very impressed with tests and we're very worried about tests. But also very depressed and very overstressed, and so increasing exercise was the order of the day to help in both those areas.
Yeah. Speaking of tests, I know. So in your book, you talked about how certain schools were experimenting with, I guess, increasing PE time or their physical education, or just kind of moving around more. And the tests were, or the results were quite positive. And so for yourself, do you think that maybe you're able to comment on this or not? I'm not sure of your capability, but do you think that the education system in America specifically, or all around the world, are they doing enough to include physical education? I mean, are they? Do you think they're lacking PE time, or they should include more, or like what would you, as a consultant, say you should do to, I guess, to any sort of school official who's looking for you, who's turning towards you for your advice?
Right. No, that happens all the time. That's what I do a lot of the time when I'm traveling around the country, around the world. Is work with schools to say, okay, look, this is what you can do. This is what the results have been. This is it's sort of a stupid fix, if you will, to the issue, but it really is. And there's all this resistance because the last thing a teacher wants to do is to do more stuff, to have more things crammed in. They think teachers are around the world are the most pressured workers that I know of, because the results got to get higher test scores, more kids into better schools and better jobs, etc. So they are being pressed by the parents, by the school district, by the government, by everybody
Mm-hmm.
to have their kids perform more. So the administration and superintendents and all that of the schools are very resistant to say, okay, take away time from seat time, from cram time, and use this to play badminton or table tennis or run or do taekwondo or whatever activity that your PE class can do, they'll say, well, that's a waste of time. They should be sitting and I should cram more stuff into their head so they can do better on tests, which they don't do anyway, but because they have to relearn it again in the cram courses at night, especially in Korea.
Yeah,
You guys,
absolutely. I know the system here in Korea.
yep, yeah. Kids come to school half asleep and sleep through the day, and then go to cram school at night, and it's a very big business there. Very big business.
Yeah, absolutely. So for yourself, you think that more schools should definitely incorporate more PE. Now, would you say that I guess, ideally, all schools should start off the day with PE because you did recommend that starting the day with some sort of physical education or some physical movement
Physical.
is probably ideal.
It would be great. It would be great if that were to happen. And a lot of schools are starting to do that, especially in the elementary schools, to have the kids really have 20 to 40 minutes of fairly intense play, but it really get everybody involved, not just the people that want to play, but everybody off their phones or their iPads or whatever it is, um, to be running and jumping and shouting and moving, and then in the higher grades to have more focused and more vigorous activities that really can change the course of the day and change their ability to learn and pay attention, not get so antsy, either in the elementary schools, in junior high, and in high school. So
Mm.
I think it all works to the better, but it's hard for bureaucracies to change anything,
Yeah.
let alone something so radical as that.
Okay. No, yeah, that's a very good point. So yeah, it's in theory it works, but practically speaking, that may not necessarily you may not be able to implement that as you kind of think it through. But yeah, that's a good point. And so for yourself, what are your thoughts on technology and modern conveniences? Do you think, I mean, more and more do I see people relying on, you know, like electrical devices or just some sort of system to transport or just some sort of modern convenience to help move one person from point A to point B, whether it's, I guess, uh, transportation or food that you could just put in your microwave and then it's instantly ready for you. So, what are your thoughts on modern conveniences with regards to exercise, humans, and I guess looking forward how that's going to change or affect us?
Well, I think it already has affected us in such a big way. The big evil thing is the cell phone nowadays. Everything else around it, of course, is making everything easier. And we have an artificial intelligence revolution already happening that's going to make it even easier. That is, less effort, less movement, less calories burned, or however you want to look at it, less involvement of the person, less of the agency of each individual. And that's something that we have to deal with. And I think that's where play and exercise and games, physical games, have a big role in the future if we pay attention to it. But I doubt we will,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because it's not something that makes people a lot of money, and that's the big driver.
That's true. At the end of the day, just it's all about the dollar and cents.
Yep.
So you've talked about exercise, and what are your thoughts on diet? Now, I know you mentioned a little bit about diet. This may or may not be your, I guess, expertise, but what are your thoughts on diet? So how uh, is there a particular diet that you are a fan of, or that people should be eating, or that they should consider switching over to? Yeah, what are your
Yes.
thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I wrote a second book called Go Wild. You probably aren't aware of it, or are you?
I wasn't aware of that, but now I'm aware.
Okay. It's also very much in Korean. It was a while ago as well. But in that, I look at diet pretty extensively, um, and I think most people have heard, at least in the United States, have heard that the whole sugar blues, the whole grains and processed food and all have led to our obesity crisis, and also probably have not probably, but have a big part to play in our diabetes epidemic that we have and that people around the world have. And it probably hastens the onset of Alzheimer's disease. So I think we know that sugar is much more the enemy than an egg. But we, for the longest time, we became fat phobic. We were fearful of anything to do with fat. So even something so wonderful as an egg, which contains all those nutrients, but it has fat in it, it became something to avoid. And instead, we had our frosted flakes and whatever the cereal of the day was, and this is led to a lot of our problems. So the diets that I support and think are useful are those that focus less on sugars and grains, and not anti-carbs per se, but because we certainly get carbs in vegetables and fruits, but to really keep the extra carbs to a minimum, because we know that the way we live best is when we're not overloaded with the toxic sugars that we see around us more and more.
Hmm, that's interesting. All right, well, I'll be sure to check out your other book, or your book on diet.
Yeah,
Would love to read more about it because you have so many different thoughts. There's vegetarian, veganism, paleo, fruitarianism, and then Dr. Mark Hyman I saw one of his videos. He was saying that you should eat meat, but just maybe have a kind of as a side dish. So like, there's so many trains of thought, but I'd love to read more about what you say on diet.
right.
All right. Well, John, uh, where can people connect with you, or where can people find your books?
Yeah. Well, they can connect with me at my website at johnratey.com. But an important area for people to see daily, if they wish, is my Facebook page. It's John Ratey, MD, and it is run by a brilliant social media millennial who knows how to do these things, and she grabs off the newswire every day a new article, usually just about exercise, but occasionally about meditation, and occasionally about sleep, uh, but and about play and all the rest of movement. and it's an article from all over the world, but mainly translated in English anyway, and posted in English, and it typically has about 8 to 10,000 visitors a day, so it's pretty much up there, and it contains lots of information of the latest information about how exercise is helping to change the world.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Dr. John Ratey. And for the audience out there, I'll be sure to include a link down below on where you can connect with Dr. John Ratey. But yeah, thank you so much for taking this time to have the interview.
Good. Well, it's great to talk with you, and finally we made it.
Yes.
And good luck with your crisis over there too.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. Hopefully, in the end, nothing will
Nothing will
happen.
happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
thank you very much.